Hi friends, good evening. Warm welcome to everyone from the team Grow With Nature. As a part of public outreach program, we have um, started this live Facebook session. This is our third session, and hopefully, and by your ample suggestions and operations, we have completed two sessions very beautifully and with a positive note. Good day. Here we are in our third session, and the topic itself is really a grand one that is into bridging the gap between wildlife research and management. In earlier two sessions, we have already covered different aspects of human and wildlife interactions, how each and every person or every facet of the people are important for the conservations of the wildlife and the natural resources. And to furtherance our objectives, we had to focus on the wildlife sector, how wildlife research is more important. And in our last session, we have already discussed that wildlife and management, resource management are very important aspects for the conservation processes or the conservation activities. And this session will focus on what are the different loopholes or what are the different gaps are there and how to bridge a gap, because gap bridging is very important for a better management practices. So as you know, for any of the problem or any of the disease in our human being, the proper diagnosis is important. So like that, in a natural system, if you are facing any problem, if you are having any conflict or if you are having any conservation issues, then the proper diagnosis of that problem is important, and wildlife research is that important tool through which a proper diagnosis can be possible, the proper diagnosis can be done. And on the basis of those diagnoses, on the basis of those data, management practices can be carried out to give a better result for different kind of management practices. So dear friends, to continue this topic, we have very fine and very long and India-based and really very guests. We have the panelists. We have the first panelist, retired professor of Orissa University and former visiting professor, Indian Institute of Bangalore, Sri Professor 𝐒𝐿𝐵 sir. Sir, namaskar and आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद एवं ये प्रोग्राम को आपको वेलकम.
Thank you.
Sir
thank you.
is Professor Emeritus, Assam Don Bosco University. He is an awardee of state level 𝐒𝐿𝐵 Award for Wildlife Conservation 2018, one of the biggest award in at the state level. He is also awardee of prestigious Samanta Chandrasekhar Award by Orissa Academy. He is actively involved in studying reptiles and amphibians of Orissa, many parts of India and Sri Lanka. He has two PhDs, one from 𝐒𝐿𝐵 University and another from University of Kansas, USA. He is fellow National Academy of Sciences, produced 44 PhD students as an academician. He was the director of a school of herpetology. His research publications were key in developing conservation actions plans for lesser known species. Felicitating his enormous contribution in field of amphibian taxonomy, the most common genus of toad of South Asia has been named after him, the 𝐵. He described several new species of amphibians and reptiles. In order to honor his contributions in field of taxonomy, one species of bush frog from Western Ghats, Rhacostis schuschili, and the largest gecko from Eastern Ghats, Hemidactylus 𝐒𝐿𝐵, are named after him. He served as co-chair IUCN for Amphibian Reptile Specialist Group of South Asia. Many recognitions are there in his name, these are very few. And the most prominent is, sir, you have been a source of inspirations for thousands of young wildlife researchers who are pursuing that career by observing you. You have been a source of inspiration for us too, and we are very lucky to have you in this session. Thank you, sir, and welcome you again. We have our second guest, Mr. Ashutosh 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐥 IFS, retired additional PCCF of Tamil Nadu cadre. He is uh, born and brought up in Orissa, but he has served his career, or he has a professional career in Tamil Nadu. Sir is MSc Zoology from BHU, Banaras University, and again he had done his MSc in Education in Forestry and Natural Resources Management from Edinburgh University, UK. He was a faculty at FRI Dehradun. He has expertise in GIS studies and most particularly Satya Megalam Tiger Reserve. He was actively involved in JFM, Joint Forest Management, and non-animal conflict issues. Presently, he is working as Joint Advisor on Plantations for National Highway Authority of India at Chennai Regional Office. Personally, I know sir from, I think from last 3 years. He is very instrumental in providing us many ideas, many inspirations, and as Rohit Nature, we are endearingly thankful to you, sir, for your support, for your inspiration, for your very positive words during the whole 3 years. And also in this session, we will be having a very fine discussion and knowledge sharing from you. Thank you, sir, and welcome you again.
Thank you.
We have third guest, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐥 𝐊𝐿𝐿. She is MSc in Biotechnology and presently working as Information Officer in ENVI Center, Environment Information System Center in BNHS. She has conducted green skill development programs as a part of ENVI's outreach program. And personally, I have met her during our bird training census training program at Point Kalima. I was very, very impressed by her leadership skill, and also 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐥 will be sharing us with a very wide experience of interacting with our young students and the young resources that you are coming at us during your field studies with you are in NSS. Thank you and welcome you again.
Thank you.
We have Medha Nayak, a young enthusiast, PhD research scholar from National Institute of Science Education Research, Niger, Orissa. A young enthusiast, while a field activist, we can say field wildlife, and her PhD is on human-elephant interaction in northern Orissa. As we were discussing yesterday, she had very fine field experiences that she hopes so she will be sharing with us. She will be sharing her experience as a research intern, and we have invited her as a guest for young researchers and also as a girl. She will be enlightening us with her experiences and also will be having a good session. So dear friends, already with our fine introduction, we have already introduced all our guests, and also we are going to have a very fine discussion during this 1.5 hour. My first, I'm saying this is a question, but my first, we just want to know from Dr. Sushil Datta, sir. Sir, you have been inspiration for many of the students, and by following your footsteps, they have been following you, and we can say that reptile and amphibians is such as the hidden category of the species, but still herpetology has in India it has become a favorite of many of the students. You have been a source of inspiration to them. With a wide experience, just want to know everybody. Even the question has come also that associated with us. How much a wildlife research is more particularly field research is important for forest management or for a landscape management, because we are having research in many sectors, we are having publications, our publications data are higher level, very high level recognized publication data are there. How far publication data is important for the management perspective or the forest management perspective is in India. We are having that parallel connection between the research publication and the forest management, particularly if we consider about India and again in Orissa. So what's the view?
Okay, thank you, Gayatri. You have put a huge question through the title of the today's discussion. That is bridging the gap between wildlife research and management. That means we all agree there is a gap. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, the question of bridging the gap should not have come here. So you told a lot about me and my background. Thank you very much. The question is, I not only deal with amphibians and reptiles, we are doing a lot of things on other animals, starting with microbes, ending with mammals, including elephants. So I'm proud to say that, during the last more than 43 years, I gathered a lot of experience in association with young researchers. You rightly told, today you have told two old researchers to young researchers. So I agree, we are not old researchers. We are also doing research, me. Okay. So then to address the topic exactly, with regard to bridging the gap, many piles of questions come to mind. Also, there are plenty of answers available to this. Okay. As you feel, there is obviously a lot of gap that is existing. To start with one, some examples I can give you, like wildlife research with regard to management of wildlife, how to bridge the gap. So what we perceive specifically in Indian scenario and with specific to Orissan scenario, if we are talking more about Orissan wildlife research and management, there is a mindset with young researchers, whether and policymakers, bureaucratic setup everywhere, that wildlife research means mega species of mammals or birds like that. As you know, we talk elephant, tiger, lion in other parts of the country. Okay. And few reptiles, as you say, maybe mega species of reptiles, sea turtles, crocodiles, python or king cobra. That is not only wildlife. As I say, microbes are also part of wildlife. Part. So microbes to mammals. Then the research that we have been conducting, I am referring only in Orissan scenario.
Yes, sure.
The researchers in most of the university, also the recent institutes like IISc, NIGER, Institute of Life Science, all these institutes have mandate, okay, in some way or other with regard to wildlife research, which leads to conservation findings. Okay. But it does not mean that everybody should or are dealing with only elephants or tiger or other big species, or sea turtles. What I mean to say here, if we are doing research specifically for conservation things, it is an amalgamation of field research and lab research. Lab research is a high-tech research. Then basically majority of the researchers are youngsters. Now in our state, also in general in our country, it's a competitive market. How you sell your products means our product, researchers' products are research findings. To sell means it's not getting money out, printing the papers. To sell means how you establish yourself in the Indian scenario or global scenario or Orissan scenario. Then you can contribute many things. But, I do not hesitate to say here that there is some gap. Okay. Researchers do quality research, whether on microbes, whether in biotechnological things, or in field research. But in this era, what I visualize, as everybody knows, environment is playing a major role with regard to conservation of animals and everything. Ecosystems are changing very rapidly. There is a loss of habitat if some people agree. Okay, so including all these things, researchers do some kind of research. Our university system, university researchers, college researchers, institute researchers, they apply projects, get projects, they get funds from various national, international agencies. Then they go through, lot of permission procedures. That is where the gap comes. Okay, one example I want to cite. So without having a proper permission from our policymakers, specifically in the state wildlife bodies, wildlife authorities, policymakers. So there are procedure in place. Researcher should come, present his plan of research, then either he or she is approved or not approved. Okay. Then if he or she is approved to carry on the research in the field conditions, then he or she does research with an understanding that he should give a copy of his or her findings to the policymakers, authorities, which they do, if I believe. Okay. But in between, there is a lot of suspicion existing. Okay. Within and between people. Okay. That is policymakers and researchers. For example, suppose a young researcher gets a state funding or national funding or international funding. When he or she comes to present his proposal for permission, then there are people sitting there who try to prove that this gentleman or this lady should justify his research in the forest ecosystem in association with lab research. Then, either he or she gets permission, he never gets permission. That is where the conflict arises. What I find personally, I don't put blame on anybody. Suppose that means everybody should come to the authority for a permission. Okay. But it is not happening in all the cases. For example, there is a BNHS researcher here. Okay. Suppose BNHS conducts research in Chilka every year. They get some money from funding agencies in the state. I am citing examples. Okay. Very open things. Are they giving whether they are asking for permission from state government, wildlife authorities or not, I don't know. Maybe they are getting permission from Chilka Development Authority. They get the money. They do excellent research. The findings, whether those are utilized by the policymakers for conservation status, I don't know. Then there are researchers in other parts of the country, big institutes in the country. They come for permission. Either they get or don't get. But they want to work with very important species like sea turtles or elephants. Okay. So they might have projects. It never looks that if a big shot, like suppose I am a big shot. If I am working in Assam, maybe I never give a presentation to Assam government or Northeast people, so I get a permit to work there. If I am applying here in my state, I appear. Okay. So I go through the process, which is very good. Okay. Then I get permission. So then, people think that, who is the funding agency? We should have a copy of the approval of the proposal. Why, prior permission has not been obtained when you receive the grant, or somebody from somewhere writes a letter to funding authorities, why did you approve this? So these are the things, because I am in policy making with animal science research in DST, ACRB for a long period, for 14, 15 years. I am in the capacity of, research proposal funding. So that is where the gap is. There should not be any suspicion within and between people. Nobody should, suspect anybody. Okay. Doesn't mean that there should be a blind, approval. Suppose somebody wants to do a high-tech research, very, biotechnologically very strong research on snake venom. Suppose, for example, I know some background, that is why I don't utilize the name of anybody. So, people are in the country trying to produce antivenin using various kinds of snake, etc. So then there is a lot of query from the policymakers while giving the permission. Then it looks they never get the permission. They cannot do the high-tech research. So this is a conflict within and between people. This conflict should vanish. There should be an open forum. Okay. Researchers never want to cheat. Okay. Because I do research, so that is what I believe. Majority never try to. They want to do some genuine research so that they can publish in some genuine journal with the quality impact factor, so that they can make their future. They can sell their products. That is what I say. So there should not be any misunderstanding between people. And the process of approval of the proposal should be very much simplified. Okay. And we should have, as a citizen of this state, I can go to any protected area as a tourist. I am example citing with regard to field research, with regard to wildlife conservation. Suppose I see a bird or I see a snake. So I am a snake specialist. I know that snake is not found in the state. As per the IUCN regulations, I should try to, what I call it is, finding novelties in nature. I find a novel species. Yes. I know this could be a new, or this could have some importance in the habitat. So then I need to have a collection permit. I need to enter into the protected areas, for which a quick permission might be necessary. Because generally, as you know, a research project, sometimes a short-term research project, 6 months, or 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years. National Funding Agency give for 3 years, in some cases for 5 years. If the permission, conduct research takes 1 year to get a permission, I don't know how many months they take to sit to take a decision for approving research projects, to conduct research, field research. The process should be very quick. So the researchers should move fast. There should not be delay. So there is I find a lot of delay in the process. So this is the gap which should be minimized. Okay. And yes. Anything
sir,
else?
you have addressed. Yes, sir.
You want me to say something else?
No, sir. We'll continue with other. Then we'll have a question later.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Sir, you have very finely you have said that gaps are there, and policy making system and the research, so they have a gap, and there should not be suspicion. Rather, there should not be blank permission. Neither there should be suspicion. They should be taken in confidence of each other. And again, there is a delay in the process. There is a delay in the process.
Can I cite?
Okay,
there are several, as you
sir.
told, there are several Biju Patnaik wildlife awardees in the state. Okay. So I consider all of them. Okay. Officially, they have been stamped as a wildlife specialist. At least all of them, if some of them are willing, should have accessibility to the protected areas to conduct research through quick permission. Whether they have a research project or not, nobody should question from where his money comes. He might not have any funds. He might be utilizing his own money. That is why Western country people do. They spend their whole life conducting research. So this is the question, okay? There should not be question of money, okay? There should be question of permission, so that the gap is, minimized. That is what I say.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
So my next question is for my next question is to Mr. Ashutosh Samansinha, sir. Sir, you have already worked with the local people and villagers. You have worked on joint forest management, man animal conflict. What Sir was saying that there is a gap between the policy making system, policymakers, and the wildlife researchers. But here the point is coming. Uh, Sir was focusing on a novel species, or if you want to be research on a particular species, whether that is having importance in the ecosystem management or not. The question is coming when a research is purely research one, purely research specific or a single species specific, particular focus on a single species. So whether that uh, fulfills the purpose of wildlife management. Because when we are talking about the management, we are coming across variety of factors. That ecosystem is there, forest is there, wetland is there, variety of ecosystem is there, variety of species are there. Many species that come up together and the create ecosystem. Research and management, where you find a gap. Okay, policy making is another part, but when you come on the field part, on a field level research, where lies the gap? So that the people are not getting that adequate permission, neither they have been taken into confidence. It has been observed that management is not taking confidence on the researchers. So where lies the lacuna? Some problem is there, some lacuna is there. So exactly where lies the lacuna?
Thanks for your question. Well, there are two issues we have been discussing here. One is wildlife and another is management. Wildlife is nothing but one anthropocentric view of species available in forest areas mainly. It's not necessary they may be available in other nearby landscapes. So far in independent India, since Britishers, Forest Department and Wildlife Department all have grown out of British Forest Department in India. That was a policing sort of department. You don't do this thing. If you do, then you will be punished. In that setup, this department was constituted, and that continued even after independence. When around 1970s, when awareness about the conservation of wildlife grew all over the world, in India also, we started developing some new laws like Wildlife Protection Act 1972, etc. And in 1980 also we had Forest Conservation Act. So gradually we started changing from a policing sort of department to a people-friendly department in an independent growing India. If you see, this forest area is a unique thing. There you see the animals, plants, which you don't see in our agricultural landscape or the urban landscape. From a distance, we used to scope, pick one or two species like tiger, elephant, etc., which are quite visible, and we started our conservation projects based on those things, and that continues today. But now wildlife management has spread not from one species or two species to a entire landscape. As Professor Datta was rightly talking, that each and every animal or plant, starting from bacteria to mammals, have equal footing. Only thing is priority is fixed by the manager, and manager decide the day-to-day activities based on a policy. The policy of the government of India initially was to protect whatever depleted forests and wildlife was available in India. And after some time, we started conservation. Conservation doesn't mean that you just protect some animals or plants in one certain area and keep it as museum pieces so that some visitors will go there and see. There has to be interaction. Now what happened? In some cases like in Corbett or in Ranthambore, you will see some of the tigers used to come in most of the photographs of the tourists. Why it happened? Because in the same route, these elephants and tigers frequently see the human visitors. As a result, their behavior changes. And if you start studying them, that will be different from the remotely located animals. Another example is elephants, in particularly in Tamil Nadu. In most of the districts, you will see the elephants are found today are no more than just you can say agriculture based animals. At night, they will be coming to the nearby farms, take agriculture crops, drink water from a borewell, and get back to interior forest in the early morning. And again, same thing will happen. Even if you provide fodder, everything in the dense forest, they are not accustomed to or ready to accept that one. In Coimbatore area, you will see almost every alternate day there are one or two animals will be coming. They are very friendly to the villagers. They will not create harm unless they are disturbed. So, but agriculture raiding will be there. So the behavior of the animals have also have changed. Why the suspicion? What professor was pointing out. Why the field officers suspect the researchers? One example I'll say, one of my professionals who happened to be DF in Darjeeling area in West Bengal. This episode happened about 2 decades ago. We are having this, at that time, this Biological Diversity Act 2006 was not in picture. So she detained two scientists, two professors from Sweden. They were doing research on the insects, particularly butterflies. And they were taking the samples also to their country. Afterwards, it was found out that they were doing from commercial angle. As you know, now Biodiversity Act is linked with intellectual property rights. Now these animals were taken to a foreign country where they were commercially utilized. Now, how to stop it? A forest ranger or a guard who are the face in the field, they may not be knowing the importance of that snake or the frog or the butterfly or the orchid. In the name of research, many of these people, they take away for a commercial thing. So there will be a suspicion. So now also tortoises, your pangolins, all these things in many places, they are smuggled out. But before smuggling, information is required where they are available. Now, field researchers like Professor Datta and his students, they reveal a lot of things about the location, their habit, seasonal behavior, all these things. And that facilitates smugglers. If you don't have a check, then this sort of smuggling will proliferate. But it is not necessary that all the researchers are to be suspected at all the times. It is a formality, and with awareness of activities on both these sides, people will be friendly. And like BNHS, as he was rightly telling, BNHS and their work scientists are very popular with forest officials because in most of the times they interact. See, field managers cannot survive without the basic research in the universities on the behavior of the animals or plants which they are going to protect. So thing is, it is not to give a statement that they don't support. It may not be 100% correct. So they have to depend on them. But sometimes what happens, the theoretical research may not be tuned with the day-to-day requirement of the field workers, field managers. Say, for example, elephant behavior. We know a lot of things in the research field about their ultrasonic communication methods, everything. but how it is to be implemented in the field, how the man-animal conflict is to be monitored so that animals don't kill the villagers. You'll see in 2015 to 2019, almost 1,700 human villagers have been killed due to human-animal conflict with elephants. Another one is about more than 4,000 bird hits have affected flights in India alone in nearby airports. And there are numerous cases are there about the wild boars. In almost every village, you will see thousands of wild boars destroying, damaging the crops. Now, field research has to take into account from both the sides, human side and also the animals and plant side, while conducting their studies in the field. For example, in Sattamangalam, before declaring it as a Project Tiger area, we conducted a GIS study on the satellite mapping on the biomass. Biomass is studied in the field, and from satellite mapping, we could find out the entire landscape level picture, so that scientists' input from elephants, tigers, and other animals, everything was put together, and that facilitates the managers in the field. So, when we are talking about the gap, I will say that it may be that researchers feel that they should continue with the traditional method of doing research on the, what you will say, theoretical aspect mainly, and field ones, they want how it has to be applied in the field. And that can be minimized by frequent interaction among the researchers. Not necessarily that a researcher has to be a doctorate or a scientist of high level in a laboratory. He can be simply an ordinary villager. So a grassroots level researcher is more useful for the wildlife than a scientist sitting in a big laboratory. And everywhere we are not doing DNA level testing. For behavior studies, I think that a villager researcher will be more useful than from a manager's perspective, not from other point of view. So you will see that this sort of research are very low cost, based on the experiences of the day-to-day experiences of the people who are at the interface of in the landscape where the plant and animals of study are residing. And that may look very orthodox from an urban centric approach. So from a distance in the urban centers, we think that something is going on there which we don't know, and that may be or may not be of any use. But if you see, say for example, you say now zoonotics, many wild bacteria is, and viral things are coming up, whose hosts are found in dense forest areas. Now suddenly we become aware that in urban centers particularly, and we get a panic that how is it happening? But in a landscape level, you will see that these are normal affairs in a forest area. So our research should, if for management purpose, research should continue. It is not that traditional research should not continue. It has to continue. But for managers, there has to be a day-to-day protocol devised by the researchers, and I don't think there has to be there should exist one gap. So far, I have not found in my 35 years that there is a suspicion that researchers are bluffing or anything. It is because it is useful for the manager.
Sir, as you told that the prospects of forest management is changing. Initially, it was a conservation based. Initially, it was protection based, then conservation based. Now we are focusing on the conflict, man-animal conflict. Uh, so that is a curtailment from a conservation angle. The conservation, or the management angle. Manager knows these are their priorities, but the same thing is not displaying or that is not dissipating to the resource level. Or the researcher does not know exactly what a manager needs. So do you feel that this is again a gap? That there should be communication gap is there between the manager and the researcher
Let us
at this
see why
point,
the
or
conflict.
how it can be addressed.
Let us see why the conflict. It is mainly due to fragmentation of the natural habitations. Man has entered into forest areas, the usual habitat of those animals and plants. And when there is a scarcity of land for free movement, all these things, this sort of conflict arises. And then our change in the agricultural pattern, our movement, behavior, human side, and urbanization, rapid urbanization, that also affect the landscapes where these wild animals this habitat. For example, you will see that there are a lot of big highways have come up, which fragments the normal migratory path of elephants, tigers, and others in the visible ones. And in many places, it has affected, particularly in the Kanyakumari area, I have seen that they have affected these frogs and aerial, even arboreal animals like these monkeys and all the things. So, thing is, if you want to minimize the conflicts, you have to depend on the scientists
This is
who are
outcomes.
working on the behavior and the seasonal behavior plus the food web in which these animals survive. That is not a work which can be given by the can be done by a manager. Manager has to depend on the researcher who can go into those details and provide the input. And that we did it very successfully in, say, Kalakadu Munanturi Tiger Project area. In the border areas, initially the villagers were hunting down any animals which were coming out. Now, researchers provided us that if you can protect the environment within the forest area, and we nowadays these people who are hunting by providing some alternate arrangements. Things is that we can minimize the mortality of the wild animals. And that happened by participation of these villagers in some income generation activities, where now you don't find that any hunting take place. Of course, that took 10 to 15 years. And we took up the landscape, entire landscape for our management. Now what happens, we are now having a DFO for a revenue district, which doesn't coincide with the sanctuary's boundary. For example, you take Chilika. Chilika is surrounded and controlled by 3 or 4 collectors, and coinciding with their jurisdiction, some DFOs, Chilika Development Authority, so many things are there. Now, if we really want a proper management of the wildlife, it has to be landscape based, and there has to be rearrangement of this administrative setup, the management setup, and there we cannot go with the same erstwhile hierarchical things where it will be everything will be percolating down from chief wildlife warden to the scientific advisory group to the warden, all these things. It should be rather from the field level scientists, foresters, and the guards. Then only we can have a successful conservation and wildlife protection thing.
Okay, sir. That means from the management perspective, wildlife researchers, the grassroots, the field-based wildlife research is really important, and they make their contribution really worthy for the management angle. So we're coming
Yeah.
to the sir.
Another last one, I will say that still today we are thinking that wildlife is a showpiece. Say in Chilica, you will see that birds have become this resource on which the entire tourism is dependent. Simlipal is a field for the tigers. That sort
For
of
the
branding should
tigers.
not be there for the tigers. So if you come to Mudumali or the Bandipur, that is famous for tigers or elephant. That sort of branding creates a problem. It may look very uh, interesting for the tourists, but for the wildlifers or for the field managers, it becomes really a headache that every time
What
you have to interpret
headache.
everything on those brands. That should stop.
Yes. Sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, coming to Sushil Datta, sir. Sir,
Yes.
Datta, sir.
Yes,
Okay, sir.
I was very happy to listen to the big man from Tamil Nadu in the sense. I have a say here. Okay. The scenario of wildlife research and conservation in the whole country is not the same. The bridging the gap. Tamil Nadu scenario, he gave many examples of Tamil Nadu. Okay. We did some research on frogs and snakes in Tamil Nadu forest, specifically in Valparai, top sleep. We did many research in Kerala. So I think he feels very comfortable, even we feel very comfortable when we want to do some research in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka scenario is a little bit different what is happening in our state.
Yes.
One thing I disagree with him, to be very frank, when he told that there should be some secrecy. Okay. People should not know. He gave example about pangolin or elephant or tiger. When a researcher is doing research, he has an open heart. He has to open up. He is doing scientific research. There is no secrecy in scientific research. When we study, for example, a biology of a species, I want to throw light on all aspects of life history of that animal, whether there is a small lizard or there is a big snake like python. Okay. So, but as he rightly said, if we open up the Pandora box, that means people know where the pangolin is living, what this is eating, where it is breeding. Then there are poachers or there are people who will try to invade them. But on the other hand, we have anti-poaching squads. We spend crores of rupees to take care of this part. So there should not be any secrecy. If I do not know, if people do not know breeding biology of pangolin, where they live, the habitat, okay, if I am publishing a paper on pangolin behavior and breeding biology, then the paper has to be full with all kinds of information. Here, that is where the complicacy is. He rightly said. Yes, he rightly said. So there is a need for the policymakers. Okay, we need, and he also told very important thing, the British mindset. Okay, what was happening during British? Maybe there is still something is happening in the present day. Even though we have a very strong Wildlife Protection Act, a Government of India 1972. So nobody, if I'm correct, nobody can be prevented visiting any protected area anywhere in the country, working on any animal, whether microbes or mammals, subjected to following some specific guidelines of the authorities, permission from state level, whether State Biodiversity Board or National Biodiversity Authority. Fortunately, Mr. Samanta Singhar has spent more than 35 years in a state which is doing good with regard to wildlife conservation and management. If I know, I have a lot of connectivity with many wildlife researchers. He knows most of those people. Okay, they are scattered all over the country. And also, I know each and every person in my state, those who are doing wildlife research, and very few people from other parts of the country has any problem with regard to doing wildlife research, with regard to conservation in Tamil Nadu. But scenario cannot be compared everywhere. Every state has their own mandate, own requirement. And when we are talking in our state, in Orissa specifically, I am more concerned because I spend a lot of time also in this state, excluding my, work in other places. So sometimes I feel uncomfortable, not only me, but there are many youngsters. Okay, they are doing a very small research. As rightly he told, some basic research. Basic research is the yardstick for conservation research. Okay, like one example, very simply, I will say, who told pangolin is very important, who told a python is very important, or king cobra is very important. Researchers, scientists over the period of time. Okay, that is where, so we should believe, because we have a very small lizard. I will cite an example. He knows very well golden gecko, the schedule animal, small few inches long. Okay, we have in Western Ghats, we have in peninsular India, we have in Eastern Ghats, specifically in our state. To me, that golden gecko is equivalent to one specimen of golden gecko is equivalent with one elephant. One specimen of sea turtle is equivalent to one tiger RBT. Okay, they are all protected species, protected animals. So this gap, should not be there much, so that we get a clarity of information. That is what I believe. So things are changing a lot. My more concern is about youngsters. I interact with hundreds of those kids all over the country, also in my state. They feel uncomfortable. Maybe I am feeling comfortable. Okay. Many of the youngsters, they feel uncomfortable, if I am correct. Okay. Because they want hotcakes, quick permission, quick findings, so that they can submit. So these are the things I believe. So one should agree there should not be any gap. So the policymakers will be listening to this in my state. And they are very nice people and very experienced people, specifically wildlife conservation, also in forest ecosystem. Many of them are also researchers. Many of the policymakers in our forest department in my state, they are also researchers, they are scientists. Many of them have PhD. 5-6 of them are my PhDs. Okay, including the present PCC of wildlife. Okay, so they are researchers. They understand the gravity of the situation. So they are doing good. Only thing is that they should have a little bit, not sympathy, not even soft corner, quick decision making for the youngsters. Young researchers should get a quick response from them. This is my, take home message for everybody.
Yeah, that's the system actually. It is not the individual.
Yes.
It's the system. And after this Biodiversity Act 2006, intellectual property rights, and Godavarman case in the Supreme Court, those have compounded the restrictions. But I don't think by this sort of gap should continue. It can be minimized by creation of more and more awareness among the local people, the stakeholders, and the scientists. And today's with the information age, I don't think nobody can be a cocoon himself or herself within some information barriers.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next coming to youngsters, because you made a voice for the youngsters, that young generation of the youngsters should be influenced. We have our two youngsters. We have Medha and Shishmita Jamal. Question to both of you. Because the first is that Medha, you are young, blooming, and lady researcher. Your work is on the elephants. So we are talking about the gap. Surpassing the gap, passing the gap, being a lady as a taboo by the society. Being a lady enters into the field research. That's true, we are working on the elephants. Do you find what the gap we talked about, because you might not have faced it because you are from the Niger and you are having a different type of selection procedure, you are having uh, different kind of funding resources and agencies. But from the field perspective, when as a lady you are working in the field, do you find that there is a gap, there is a lacuna that you are facing the field scenario?
Yeah, to begin with, I must start that my project began with bridging all the gaps, meaning I am not a natural scientist, I'm a social scientist, to make it very clear.
Yes.
So till now, we have been talking about natural scientists, permissions, and all about it. And also, going back to Ashutosh sir mentioning about people being the actual researchers, meaning the human perspectives coming as the real perspective.
Yes.
So I come up with bridging the first three gaps. One is the sociologist's view, meaning bringing human dimensions of human-wildlife conflict into the picture, taking human stakeholders, meaning the local community as major stakeholders of the problem. Then I also bring in the perspectives of a female researchers. Coming to Orissa situation, we have male researchers are like full everywhere. They have male researchers. You talk about human-wildlife conflict or human-elephant conflict, you'll see male researchers are in plenty. So when they go to study in the field, their acceptability and their reach to the people is limited. For example, a woman would not feel as comfortable talking to me or a female than talking to him. Similarly, when you are organizing a focus group discussion or a participatory role appraisal in the field and you're conducting a meeting with the local community, there you will see the lady will come up to you and she'll speak to you saying that, oh, probably I think you can understand what I feel better. So my husband was injured. I think you can understand what I'm going through. My husband is put in the police case and we had a tussle between the forest department people. Can you do something about it? So she'll come up with all these things to you, which will not happen with the male researchers. Well, I don't say it won't happen. It is less likely to happen, is what the point I want to put forth. So after bridging all these gaps, I am on the field. You have rightly said, since I'm in a central university funded by Department of Atomic Energy, funding has never been a problem. And since I'm from social sciences, the major permissions that we need to go through is the ethics committee report. Or if I'm conducting a psychological study on my respondents, then I have to go for ethical board and morals and all of that comes into play. But for forest department, I just have to inform them and tell them this is what is going to happen. Of course, approval is in the process, but the conflict situation is not that much as we have already discussed in the previous discussions. Now talking about me as a female, the challenges are plenty. Prejudices or the stereotyping is even infinite, unbounded. But what you can do with it is also infinite. For example, when I went into the field or when I started my research, I did a quick SWOT analysis. SWOT is like strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. So I exactly clicked on the checks and balances of what I could do on the field and how I could convert all my threats into opportunities. And that's exactly what happened on the field. So when I went on the field, people were curious, oh, she's a female. Oh, she's a woman. Oh, she's going to do research on the field. Even in the office, in the college, in the university, people are like, whoa, really? And then they are like, women in the wild? So you have all things after you. But still, and what does the work for you after the SWOT analysis is a 4D plan. So you got to have the drive. I had the drive. Then you got to have determination that I will anyhow get access to this drive and I'll do it. Then comes dedication, that I'm dedicated towards my drive. I'm dedicated to achieve what I have thought to achieve. Then comes a little bit of divine. So the divine support and you are through. Now what happens on the field? Everybody is like, okay, there is a female researcher. I don't know, what is she going to do? Is she going to do anything at all? How will you be able to help you? So people will come straight on my face and say, what will you do? You're such a dainty piece. I mean, you're so sensitive. Can you even do anything? You can't bear the heat, can you? I was like, yeah, right. And I can bear everything. So just bring it on. And the thing started. And you won't imagine, later when people knew that I'm there on the field, everybody would know that I'm on the field for all good reasons. Not for the prejudices, not for the stigmas attached to it. And even the female forest guards, they would also feel very nice about it. That there's a female researcher on ground and our voices will be heard. So if you are from a minority community, but do not forget, you are young, you are able, and you can think. And you can turn anything that you wish to turn. So you just need to have the wish, the drive, and the dedication, determination, and whatever that comes into the picture. Now talking about other challenges, there are some vulnerabilities, risks, dangers all the time. For example, especially it comes when you have to get data. So you bank on the data bank, considering that there's a lot of data with the forest department or there is some other institution, but there's a huge process that you have to go through. And considering that I knew a lot of people, I thought, okay, getting data will not be that difficult. And caching from the data bank should be like that easy, but it is never easy. You have to go after them, and the system is so pressing and suppressing, and they'll be always like, okay, what will you do? What are we getting out of you? So there's always this negotiation that keeps going, and that further delays the process of your research, because you're focusing more on this than that. But later, you're on the field, all of this happens. So gender has nothing to got nothing to do with your intellect and skill. You can still do wonders, and field conservation is always the best. And I'm just one very small, tiny bit I've done in the process, but you will find many other people. If you type women in conservation, you'll find many others. Vidya Treya, Divya Karnad, Janaki Lenin. You'll find a number of people, those who are doing amazing stuff. For example, you remember Latika Nath. She's called the Tiger Princess. She's also doing amazing work. So that's all I think.
Okay. That is, as Ashutosh Sir was saying, that anthropocentric issues in the forest ecosystem, that our conservation should be, from that angle. It's not only about that pure wildlife was important. In fact, the social or the socio-economic issues those are addressing, or the social resources, they are also important. You are doing tremendous because your work was not purely wildlife, but you are contributing tremendously for ameliorating the man-animal planet. Congrats, Medha, for the beautiful job. And coming to Sushmita. Sushmita, sorry, we are late, but you are the information officer. Hello? I can't. Are you there, Sushmita? Sushmita is not connected, I think. Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Connection has gone out. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm fine.
Because the topic was, lingering in that way, and we have to focus on that gap, bridging the gap. And one important factor, what I feel, how we can fill up a gap. Management, one perspective. Researcher, one perspective. The funding is one perspective, and another important data, resources. Because for the young researchers who does not have any godfather, no connections, nothing. They depend on a internet-based information system. And NBS is considered one of the authentic and most reliable source of information. So, how do you find to promote wildlife researchers or to carry out wildlife research in a very positive note, in a positive to give it a positive dimension? How much NBC is important? Or the data is how much are important for the wildlife researchers?
First of all, NVIS, there are many NVIS centers all over India. So our NVIS department particularly deals with avian ecology field, with the birds. So
Yes.
for that, we have been maintaining many databases, first of all. Most of them are secondary data which we have collected, and soon we'll be starting the primary collection also. And yeah, it is helpful to all the researchers because BNHLR, that is acclaimed to be one of the pioneers for the bird conservation, particularly in the
Bird
bird
conservation.
conservation. Yeah, along with all the animals, mammals, insects, but bird conservation is mainly it's a
The logo
specific.
itself explains the
The
hornbill
whole
logo.
right, exactly. So it's like that. Whenever they require any data regarding abstracts or scientific papers, we do provide them with that. If there are any queries regarding birds, whether it's coming from the forest officials, from students, from researchers all over the world, we do pass the queries to our high-level senior ornithologists or other researchers who do help in solving those queries. So, NVIS, in a way, has been serving its purpose, and recently, via the usage of the GSTP program, we have been training the youngsters in basic skills. Mainly, you can say we have conducted many courses till date. It has started from the year 2018, and till now we have conducted almost 6 to 7 courses, and successfully many of them are employed now. They have been employed. They are acting as a master trainers. So in a way, we are kind of disseminating knowledge regarding the conservation values, giving them skills, training them, and aiding the management, the higher management, to kind of bond up with with the grassroots level, because here most of the trainees are belonging from the unskilled community or kind of uneducated community who do need some kind of aid for their livelihood, and they are more connected to the nature more than the people who are living in the urban areas. They don't have any
Yes.
prior experience in research, or most of them are not even qualified the higher secondary education also, but still they have got a very good knowledge regarding the local habitats, local forests, regarding the birds and animals all over found there. And in fact, many of our researchers, they require the help of these grassroots level people to
Yes.
conduct their own researches in such remote areas. And also, NVIT is also working on a new project called GRIDS, which is kind of a grid-based decision support system, which is also one of the initiative of the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, under which the whole Indian peninsula will be divided into grids, and each NVIT center has been provided with particular districts, of which it has to collect all the information available regarding flora, fauna, topographical information, everything, and fill up. So it will be aiding our government to get to know the status of the biodiversity present in our country. So mainly I can say that NVIS department is helping in dissemination of the knowledge, and recently it has started also kind of providing skills to the people, which will help them in the employment. So I myself don't belong from a wildlife background. Actually, I have an MS in biotechnology, but after coming in BNHS, I have minutely observed these researchers and scientists working the day and night out with longer months in the field, out in the fields, collecting the data, publishing papers, doing everything they can. And most of them are really attached to their own species, and or that own, what should I say, flora or
Field
fauna
observe.
field. Yeah, kind of that, because they have done a lot of research upon that. sometimes I do feel a small gap arising when they don't pursue enough to put those findings or research to be actually utilized, uh, should I say,
At the management point,
on a ground level. Yeah, on a ground
on
level
the
or
ground.
on the field. They have to pursue a lot, actually. I really support Dr. Sushil Datta's comment here. The researchers have to pursue them, pursue everybody, the
Yes,
management especially. They cannot just say, they just cannot just publish papers and say, okay, my work is done.
yes,
They have to pursue a lot. And that this is a hard work. And yeah, Ashut also said that we shouldn't only depend on the people who are highly educated, because I can say there
yes,
are some people who are not at all educated. They don't have any degrees. Maybe as I said, they have not even finished their schooling, but they can provide. They are kind of, you can say, bundle of immense knowledge of their own local habitat. So it's like
yes,
we have to uplift everybody, everyone here. It's not about who is to be blamed, who is not to be blamed. I think we all have to trust each other, which is a missing point here. As because today's topic is the gap between wildlife researcher and management, I do believe the gap main here is because of the lack of the trust, the lack of transparency, and the absence of frequent communication between these two parties, which has to be done on frequent levels, and you have to pursue each other. That's my point of view.
that's the most important. Yes, that's most important for what you focus. That actually what I have observed, DNHS is also working on many different kind of wetlands. Okay,
Many
and
actually. Yeah,
they're that
please continue.
working tremendously, starting from Bharatpur to Chilka to Point Caliber to everywhere. And
Everywhere.
what is that is source of strength in the local people for the bird drinking or the bird trapping or anything. They will use the
Everywhere.
local people for the, and the information from the local people is really authentic, really very important, because local people live in that particular area from a long time. Researchers or the management, the manager, they go to that location for a very short duration of the time. Either
Exactly,
during
exactly.
researchers go during their research time, or the manager
Exactly.
when go to that place during the service time or the job of work. But the local
It's
people,
because,
they are the actual resources, and they need to utilize it in proper format or a proper way. And when it is doing tremendously, and as you told that the young researchers, they should focus on those, that bundle of knowledge. We have to convert those information or the bundle of knowledge into a more authentic way or into a managed way point of view. That's also one
we
gap.
have,
Therefore,
have to
we have to focus on that gap too.
bundle up.
And
Yeah,
yes,
yes,
okay,
that's right, actually. And I would like to add this also, that sometimes I've seen this also, that researchers have given their inputs and everything, but their thing is not appreciated by the management. These things have also been done,
yes,
which they should be done, because researchers, they go through everything they can to just collect those data. Because in my mind, I have got this picturization that like the researchers are like the brain and the management is the body. Without each other, none can work.
hmm,
And the mission and goal of both of these parties is conservation. So if even one part is not working properly, there won't be an effective conservation. So in order to do that, both have to work together in coordination. So
okay.
both
So
have to
that's,
come together. Yeah,
they both are complementary of each other. Without one or
exactly.
another cannot perform. Two wheels of a vehicle or anything. What you say, they both have to come up together. So it
Exactly.
was really a very very beautiful, and we cannot continue further our discussion because the time is very short, and we have to move on to the questions that has already been put forth by our viewers. We have already got the questions from the registration link, and so before that, I must go for the registration, because people have already registered from 2 days back, and mm, yeah, but yeah, now we will be going for the questions. Uh, we have some questions, very valid questions I am just putting. One question from Vijaya Francis from Bangalore. He is a 62-year retired teacher and a research scholar from Harthiya University. His question is, sir, very crispy we have to give the question, answer we have to give. His question is, please highlight some action taken to help man and wildlife live in harmony and insight to better living conditions for animals at large. Uh, what the steps can be taken for the man and wildlife to live in harmony? Ashutosh sir.
If you go into this man-animal conflict, you will see that this sort of behavior occurs because uh, human have changed its behavior, and animal also has been affected due to this behavior. Unless we get into that crux, this conflict will continue. For example, in some places, what happens, the agriculturists, they start farming with sugarcane and paddy with lot of water just in the fringe of the forest area. And then we criticize that animals are coming from the forest to damage these things. So to stop that
Can
thing,
you all hear
first
me?
is we have to stop this sugarcane
Yes,
and
sir, I
paddy.
can
I
hear.
heard both the young researchers, Susmita and Medha, they talked about their research that they have been doing, and Medha is doing something which she says that there is not much need with regard to permission, etc., from the authorities. And similarly, Susmita says she is dealing with information system. So they might not face problems that we all
Yeah. No, that sort of bridge can be reduced by more awareness and knowing each other and these researchers and the managers in the field, because that suspicion will continue just because awareness is not there. And once awareness is there, then that sort of thing may not survive. And
That
what
means
I was
right
talking about,
information. Yes, sir. Right
yeah,
information at the right level. It increases the awareness level and it will reduce the man-animal conflict sequences. The same question was also asked by Sarabjit Mohanty, Sarbajit Mohanty Maidhan. His question was also how to avoid human-wildlife conflict. Small steps on our side to safeguard the wilderness. So it's purely or mostly on the awareness.
human
but
animal conflict
basically
is mainly due to
millions and
fragmentation.
millions of years back, starting with the origin of
Uh,
Yeah, correct, correct.
yeah. Sir,
Yeah,
continue. Ashutosh.
yeah, this human animal conflict is due to mainly the fragmentation of the major landscape. And to minimize this conflict, we have to change our way of life, human way of life. Say, in case of Bangalore city itself, I will say that once you are traveling from Husur Krishnagiri side towards, then you might be passing through the reserve forest, which was habitat for the elephants. Still, that habitat continues, migration also continues. But just because of this man-made constructions, concrete jungle, the animals they stray from their original path, and we shall say that they are affecting the human behavior. Now, there we have to change the behavior, our day-to-day life altogether. In some European countries, they have provided some timings while the animals can cross the national highways. At that time, the traffic can stop. That sort of arrangement has to be made. Then both have to survive. We must agree that the elephant or the tiger has equal right what we have on that nature. It's not in that landscape. Human is not the superior one. It is just another animal, just like elephant and or tiger or a microbe. Then only we can realize how to live with others.
Thank you, sir. Hope Sarabjit, you got your answer. Another question is from Ruxana Pradhan, Jharsuguda. What are the shortcomings on part of management? Dear Ruxana, I think we have discussed on those parts in the initial discussion part, and we have many shortcomings that there, not only from the management, from the wildlife perspective, research perspective too. And we have discussed it, and also in the next session we will be continuing that one. The next question is from Rajat Mohanty Bhubaneswar. He said, can we save nature by using engineering ideas? Can the engineering ideas or engineering interventions can be applied to, to, to find out some solutions of these issues?
Say mostly now, if you say in IT sector or finance sector, now a lot of modeling is going on with very small field data. Lot of things are future situations are projected, and out of that you'll see the entire COVID research what are now going on is just on mathematical data analysis. So engineering is a big thing which will be useful in wildlife population management, and
So,
also in
Medha,
minimizing. Yeah.
Medha, you want to answer?
Yeah, so I just wanted to take forward this question, this answer. Basically, it depends what kind of engineer are you and what kind of interventions are needed on the field. If you have felt that your knowledge can actually bring in some interventions, then definitely a lot of things can happen. Like, for example, a few days ago, a lady, she called me and she was saying if we could put some barriers wherever the railway tracks are, and that is exactly the point where elephants cross that railway track. So there she wanted to put a barrier. But for that barrier,
So,
you need an IT technology. You also need that thing that moves, that barrier that moves, or the that is mechanical, that is electrical, that is IT involved, technology that is involved. So all of this can come together. So a lot of engineering products or interventions are definitely required, provided that they have some connection with natural sciences and they borrow from elephant behavior, they borrow from people. For example, you can also look at solar fences, that is, they're almost everywhere. But they trip often. So that seems to be the lacuna or the shortcoming of that solar fence. How that can be resolved. So that can be one of the things that can be done. So that was just one
but
instance.
anyways, that the research, wildlife research, they gives the input, and on the basis of those input only.
Yeah, they can also conduct. They can also conduct mini research for their level, and
Yes.
then conduct trials, and then definitely it'll be in or something.
Okay. There is another question from Jerry Alfonso Adolf Bankert, that she is asking, what is the solution for zoonosis? But ma'am, actually our topic is on this, no, bridging the gap. Also, when we'll be focusing on this part, we'll be having a question answer. Okay. So these are the questions that we received from registered participant. Then we're coming to the questions that we got during the live session. Ruxana Pradhan, she is saying, is there any role of citizen science in bridging the gap?
Yeah,
Citizen
there
science,
is
yes.
actually in BNHS only. Many of the programs are there which belong to this category, citizen science, and according to that, on particular days of the year, for example, when there's a Salim Ali birthday, and many other days are there when all the common public, the people are they all come together for doing the bird census, particular bird census. So in that way, they also get interested into the nature to know more birds. They get to know, and the main thing is that what I feel that they are the inside ecology, the ecologist or the nature explorer within them gets revived in the process. So it does help in bridging the gap because the people who don't know or who doesn't want to get involved in who doesn't want to know nature and all, they will never get to see the intricacies involved what is going inside the life of a wildlife researcher or how the decisions are made. So I think such kind of programs do help bridging the gap. As the common people get to know more about the animals and birds around them.
The involvement of the local people is too
Yeah.
important. They are also
Yes.
another facet or another
In
contributor
fact,
for the
in fact,
wildlife
in under this
research.
Biological Diversity Act, we are having the gram savage. Now,
Yes, sir.
this
Yeah.
is citizen scientists. They provide all the inputs to prepare the data on biodiversity for each and every village all over the country, and also help on getting us GI tagging all these things, and that will be useful for the intellectual property and patenting sort of things.
Thank you, sir. Next question is Prakash Martaraj is asking, hi, my question is to seniors. Project are conducted, supposed human wildlife conflict project. After the completion, who is responsible for implementation of the mitigation strategies? And second question, should be there another projects only focusing on implementation of the past project outcomes? So two questions he asked.
Yes, any project for the human animal conflict is based on the inputs given from the researchers. And in most of the projects, we are having the benchmarks. From time to time, based on those benchmarks, we collect the information. And again, the researchers provide us if any course correction is required or the things are going on happily. So, because we are dealing with a dynamic thing, this is not a static thing that once you take a capsule and your fever is over. This will continue. This is a behavior pattern. So, thing is, from time to time, you must have some inputs and get course correction. That will continue, and that is also the uh, what I'll say. That is the most acceptable way of dealing with things.
Next question, please. Shubhendu Bhattacharya, he's asking, in our present organogram in wildlife management, every division should have researchers from various aspects of flora and fauna. The managers should approach more technically to the challenges. He's giving a
Now, I
solution.
fully
Is a good.
accept with Mr. Subendu. I fully accept that. Say, without researchers, no manager can operate today. It's an information age. Even if he just ignores one scientist, he's losing so much information. So, thing is, he cannot afford to do that thing. All and no sensible manager will do that one. But one thing is that these informations should not lead to so much data that it will be indigestible. The wildlife researchers must be specifically helped if that will be utilized by the managers in the field. Above all, who are the managers in the field? A forest range officer or a forester or a guard. They are not highly educated people. They have to be told what is to be done. And we have to bring down the science up to their level, that grassroots level. There are some workers, volunteers, NGOs who are working in the grassroots. They have to be told in their languages. If you start talking at the professor's level or the chief wildlife warden's level, that may make a caricature. So, but rightly, I agree with Mr. Suvendu that we must have researchers to facilitate today's day-to-day management.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Yeah. Anjan Pushti. He's saying we need to clap in two hands. Researchers need to provide much required insights to the PM managers, protected area managers, and the forest department need to be considerate towards researchers so that there is a win-win situation that leads to holistic management of natural resources and biodiversity.
Exactly.
That's any
Say,
points.
in the beginning, what I was telling that forest department was created just like a police department, and that mindset still continues. But things are changing now. And it's wildlife management has become a multidisciplinary field already. Whether forest officers they like or don't like, it makes no point at all now with the information age. And Mr. Prusti has rightly told that if we involve more and participatory management will be more effective. And rightly, Susmita also was talking about the grassroots people with information. So those things has to come more and more for a effective management of human-animal conflict.
Next question, please. Next question. Prakash Martaraj. Okay. My question is for Medha. Working in field in Orissa for a lady researcher is more challenging than a man researcher in case of time of work, place of work, and security. And Medha, you want to answer something or you have already answered it? Okay,
Yeah,
give a short reading.
I've answered most of the things actually while talking about, but availability of time was something that I wanted to consider a little more. I think that gives me an opportunity to do so. Firstly, about time. People always tell you that, oh, it's too late for you to be on the field. And it so happens that only during the evenings it's the elephant time, and you get to see people in their real form. Because throughout the day, whatever you have interviewed with the people, that's a different story. Like, हाँ हाथी आसुची, हाथी आ रहा है, हाथी ये कर रहा है, हाँ आ रहा है, ऐसा भी reaction हो सकता है. But what happens when you are there at night? The reaction is no more like that. It's like, just go away, we don't want you here, elephants, yeah, wo, that kind of situation arises. That you don't get to see as a researcher if you are not there at right time, at the right place.
That means practical experience should be there.
Yes, so that is my time constraint. And the other was, I think he was talking about the place, time, and the dangers are obviously there. That also I had already talked about. But that has to be manipulated and negotiated in some manner.
So you are taking the challenges in a very positive way. The next question, wonderful program and loved the way two young researchers participated along with two veterans of respective field, which was Bendu Bhattacharya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, Meenakshi Das. Listening to Medha Nayak makes me realize the challenges the wildlife researchers face in general, especially in terms of data accumulation from different institutions or organizations, thereby focusing the majority of their attention in the process of collecting the data other than the actual study. But still, they come out with wonderful works of their own. Secondly, the gender biasness is up to us and how we deal with it in particular and how we put ourselves in the field. So, moral, yes, okay. Meenakshi, you are absolutely right. It completely depends upon our mindset, and we have to change our mindset if you really want.
I will add up with Meenakshi. That this data available in the department and the data required by the researchers, sometimes they don't coincide. Lot of data is available in the department, forest department or the wildlife wing. Many times what happens, they are not in usable form to the researcher. And if she is a lady, then it becomes more difficult. The thing is, by over a time period with use, the field people also will understand this researcher requires this type of data. Then those things.
There's also consistency in data.
Yeah, that will be possible. Because we now require more and more workers who happen to be the ladies. Because 50% of our population, particularly in the human-animal conflict, are ladies, and their perspective has to be brought into the research.
Thank you, sir. And these are not the questions, but only appreciation. I must not forget those who have given us appreciation. That's Sila Roy Chaudhary. She told that need this type of program frequently to develop people's knowledge and interest. Thank you, ma'am. Rushana Pradhan, great webinar. Pallavi Mahapatra, she's saying excellent deliberations, and there is no more questions. So it was really a very nice program. because many loopholes are there, many gaps are there, but our role is not to find out the gaps, in fact to bridge the gap. How the gaps can be covered up so that we can have a free flowing process of research and the management all together. And at the end, our purpose is for a better world, better wildlife, and better man and human coexistence without any kind of a conflict, and let the human behavior, let the character, let everyone to be changed according to the changing scenario. We must uh, appreciate the work of the researcher. We must appreciate the help from the manager. So it's a kind of two hand, as Anjan Kushi sir told, the club should be from both of the hands. Hope we 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 have a very fine seminar, fine talk. Within 1 minute, please conclude your speech. Starting from Askus. What a message you want to give for them?
See, I agree with the participants that more and more such programs should continue, because the research is not a thing which should be confined only to laboratory and a few senior scientists and workers in the universities. Today's research has to be in the field, and not necessarily that it has to be with the trained people. Trained people, yes, if they come forward, it is fine, but not necessarily always it is required. So, for example, Indian whole forestry developed with the army officers. And initial years, there are 4 or 5 doctors who happen to be army doctors. They started the forestry. And whole of your herbarium collection, which is available on Himalayas, whole of the insect collections, whole of the butterfly collections, whole of the orchid collections available on Himalayas or in Western Ghats are done by army officers who are not even biologists. So, think it is not necessary that only scientists can do research. Only thing is we have to record those things, and in the age of big data, it is the experience and which has to be shared, and more experiences, then we will be having statistically more accurate things which will be useful in day-to-day management. And I must thank the organizers, particularly Gayatri, for giving me particularly an opportunity to interact with young scientists, and also the listeners who spared so much time in listening to my thought in particular. And thank you everybody for sparing so much time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, I am number. Okay, next, Sushmita.
Yeah, I would like to thank you, ma'am, very much. Thank you so much for this lovely program. And I would love to thank Ashutosh sir and Datta sir also. Meda, it was really inspiring. Whatever you said, I can relate to most of these things because you are in the field and being in an office also. I can say we women have to face a lot of things, but if we go on just thinking about that, it won't help. So we have to just move forward, thinking ourselves as just human. So,
Yeah.
on a concluding note, I would just like to say that we all should try to keep the naturalists within ourselves alive every time. It's not like the researchers will be doing or the management will be doing. It's a joint effort from everyone. It should come
All the
from everyone.
stakeholders.
And please think we us of I want everybody on this planet to think each other as human, because I don't think when a tiger is seeing anyone and he's thinking it's the tigress, she won't be able to do that. He's a tiger, he will be doing that, like that thing. So we should first of all think we all are humans. We have to, as we have got the brain to think and do such wonders. So it's up to us to move forward, to keep our planet as it is, not destroy it, actually, to move towards a better future. It's up to us. So just join our hands together and move forward towards a bright future. That's all I would love to say. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, Meda, half minute, sorry.
That's all right. It was wonderful to hear out all my fellow speakers and all the questions and thoughts, suggestions, everything was wonderful to read out. Now, just to mention, since Shushmita is here, my association with BNHS actually gave voice to my citizen science, and that was the starting
Okay.
point. Like way back in 2006, my father had taken me to Hornbill House, and there Dr. Saraswati Unithan had shown me the birds collection. So that was the starting point when I was really little. But
Okay.
what I find is a lot of kids who cannot associate or dissociate themselves that we are a very, very, very tiny part of the ecosystem or the biodiversity. And it just got bigger when I enrolled myself into leadership course in biodiversity conservation, LCBC 100.
Mhm.
So that was in Conservation
Yeah.
Education Center of BNHS in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, or that's the film city.
Right.
So this is what it is all about. And being a female is never a problem. You just need to
Never.
convert all your weaknesses and threats
Exactly.
Yeah,
to and fly.
okay.
Obviously.
We'll continue our discussion later on after the session because your time is already passed and we're
Yeah.
continuing. Okay, it was really very nice to have every one of us. It was a wonderful discussion, and hope so we'll be continuing with this kind of the session, and the knowledge could, pass on from one person to the whole of the world. Let's make a beautiful world, make a beautiful environment, and from the team of Grow with Nature who was working on the front side or the back side, ample or the many lots of thanks to each and every one of the viewers and all the participants on the panelists. Sorry, Dr. Sir could not join because he's having some network issues.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sir, thank you a lot because it was really we are fortunate that we had you in our panel and we could hear something from the very field level issues from the researchers. And you are the voice for the young researchers. Thank you, Datta sir. Because okay, hope so we'll be continuing and panelists will have a selfie. Just be on the 1 second selfie. Sandeep, please take the selfie.